Okay, let's bring tonight's meeting to order, the regional council meeting for April the 14th. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories of our friends and our neighbors and our treaty partners. Recognize the common treaty that we have between us and the rights that are within that treaty. I also like to thank and recognize the Métis people for all of the things that they've done in this community over the years, and the fact that they've been here for a long time during present. So please be advised that tonight's meeting is available to the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Council, do you have any additions to tonight's agenda? Staff? No? Okay. Is there any public that would like to speak to anything on the agenda tonight? No? Adoption of the agenda is in order, please. Moved by Councillor Enoch, second by Councillor Gerwing. All in favor? Or any opposed? That passes. There are 3 sets of minutes there. So there's Committee of the Whole March 10th for reconsideration, and then Committee of the Whole March 24th, and regular Regional Council March the 24th for adoption. Please moved by Councillor Roper, second by Councillor Enoch. Is there any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Those are carried. Okay, that brings any business arising from any of those minutes? Seeing none, we'll carry on. Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Water Week proclamation. I believe that proclamation is here. Where did I see it? Right after the minutes. I'll read it. This is a proclamation of our own. Proclamation, NRM Water Week, May 4th to 10th, 2025. Whereas human health is dependent upon the abundant supply of pure, clear drinking water, and whereas safety, quality, and abundance of water can only be safeguarded by sound environmental protection, appropriate treatment, and properly maintained distribution systems, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure with future generations depend upon, and whereas each citizen of our community is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, to practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues, and whereas federal, provincial, and local governments, as well as concerned organizations, are cognizant and supportive of the measures that promote safe, clean, and abundant water and responsible wastewater management, and whereas one such measure involves heightening public awareness of the value of our drinking water resources and encouraging the public to promote this awareness, therefore, the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality hereby proclaims May 4th to 10th, 2025 shall be known as NRM Water Week. Signed by myself. There's probably a more official version I could sign somewhere. Do we have a copy? No, I'll sign it later. No, that's okay. I'll sign it later. Okay, good. Okay, there are two staff service recognitions that happened. They're both firefighters. They have a bit of a ceremony down there at the fire hall, but I think it's good that we recognize them publicly. Greg Bucks, firefighter, 10 years full-time service, and Todd Brody, paid on-call firefighter, 15 years of part-time service. So our thanks to them and their families, because their families are a big part of them being able to serve. So thank you to them on behalf of staff, ourselves as council, and the residents of the community. Okay, that brings us to reports. 8.1 Administrative Report 2025, the Food Cycler Expansion Program update. Mitch, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the report in front of you here is just a follow-up to the previous reports where you requested a follow-up to how the program is going. It is just going to note that it's now 17 units that have been sold. I checked that earlier today. But essentially, as expected, it's a little slower uptake on the second round there. So Food Cycle Science has given us an option to either continue with the full 100 units or have this 40 unit alternative. And the idea behind it is to get more participation rather than just have them sit there. So Their suggestion is just to lower the price so that there's still an entry point or a somebody has to put some skin in the game, but are also able to participate in the initiative. So with that, the budget is, we do still have that budget in place from the previous, I can't think of the word, but anyways, so it's
Previous go around.
previous go around. So it's more for discussion just to see if there's alignment with council, if you either want to go this 40 unit route or the 100 unit route and then keep the full price.
Council, thoughts?
So just some clarification. So if we go with the 100 unit, are they suggesting we lower the price to the consumer? And if we go with the 40 units, it'll be the same price as it was the last intake? Is that correct?
So the 100 units would stay at the current price point, which would be 200 and 300 for small and large units respectively there. The idea would be to essentially their suggestion regardless is to lower the price for the end consumer so that it is more accessible and you do get more engagement in that regard. So the recommendation here would be the 40 units, you significantly reduce the price so you stay within budget, but there's still, it provides more access to the community for lower income folks or folks who may find that price is a barrier to entering into this program.
Just a follow up?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do we have plans to kind of get out into the community? Like what about the trade show? Could we have the units there and do demonstrations? Anything we can do to promote it and try to get a few more sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So that has come up for sure. In terms of the trade show as well, Food Cycle Science has suggested that they can put on like a webinar type thing. I guess the consideration for that would be staff time invested into it with some of these other projects, and especially the next one that's up on the agenda there, is that it would be that balance, right? So absolutely, there can be significantly more time put into it. However, it does take away from the other initiatives that are being worked on.
Councilor Growing, please.
Yeah, so just as a reminder that when this second phase of the project came up, I suggested that we have a lower price point. Because what I'm hearing, and was hearing back then is that disposable income is just not there. There are costs to run the food cycler, ongoing costs for the carbon and, the bags and all of that. So I absolutely think that we need to lower it to 40 units. And I believe that the price needs to be lowered. And I would propose that it's a $50 flat, whether they're wanting the smaller or the larger units. And I'm advising everybody to get a larger unit because I have a smaller unit. I'm just on my own and it's not big enough. So that would be what I think that we should do is the 40 units and the offered at $50. And yeah, that's what I think.
Councilor next.
I have to agree. I know when it first started, the cost even kind of struck me like $300. And there are quite a few people in town that would be able to afford the 50 and not the 300 or even the 200. So I'd like to see it lowered as well.
So have we purchased the 100? Do we have 100 units here? Like, is that what they're saying? Is that they'll take 60 back and let us stay with the 40 at the same price?
So I've asked them to hold off before shipping so that we could
Okay.
make that decision because of the last request to bring this back.
Yeah.
So we don't have them here yet.
Okay.
So we do have that option to wait, which would save on shipping costs as well. And just if I may ask there, Councilor Goering, are you saying all large units should be ordered and all at $50 or the mix of units at all $50?
What was the last part of that sentence that you said?
So there's the two separate units, right?
Yep.
The small and the large. Are you suggesting that all units, regardless small, large, are $50, or is there?
Did we just get the large one?
or
Well,
just
I
the
mean,
large ones? Yeah, thank you.
I would like to have a discussion with everybody about that. Personally, I think we should just get the large ones. The small ones are very small and, but either way, I think it should be $50, like, and using that LCAP funding. The money is there, it's grant funding.
So the only thing I would say with that is I just have to rework the budget. Because if it was $50, I think right now that would take away, call it about $1,400, so it would go over budget if we were to offer all units at the
By $50.
$50.
You haven't worked the budget to see what it would be, though, because this is just an idea that just came up. So you haven't worked it to see what the break even would be.
Yeah,
Whether it's 75 or whatever, to just have the bigger ones and break even with the budget that we have.
yeah, so I did with the current breakdown of them. So when it was the 14 units, there was I thought I had it in here. It was basically the breakdown is I think it was 29 large and 11 small if you were to keep percentages based on
Yeah.
what was currently purchased. And so from that, worked out the budget of $100 for the large units and 50 for the small units would keep us in that budget at the 40 units.
Is there any money left in that LCAP fund to top this off a bit? Yeah. Okay, so then why don't we get 40 then and offer them for $50?
And just the large ones?
This large. Well, I guess the last question, so you haven't received any of them yet? So even the ones that have been purchased already? So once they showed up and we started distributing them, I wonder if more people would, well, I guess that's the rest of the 40, I suppose.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was like, it's disappointing that there's limited capacity,
Mhm.
right? Because that's what's gonna make the project go, but if we had them at the trade show, like at the council booth, we could take on that responsibility to talk it up. I know the last time we went to the not-for-profits, so they're all aware of them. But I do know that there still are a few not-for-profits that don't have one, so there's still some room there. I mean, I can definitely, if it's a staff capacity issue, I would be more than willing to step up and do some engagement on it.
Could they have them here by the trade show? I bet you sell every single one of them at the trade show at
Probably.
$50.
Worth a shot.
Staff?
Especially if you put the price that you would purchase, what would the cost of purchase on the market, because they're about $600 a piece, right? $579.
Trade show deal, $50. Boom.
Yeah. Now, are
Limited
we
time
doing
only.
this- Sorry, are we doing one per household again, or are we kind of,
That would be, yeah, it would be recommended. So you don't have folks buying and then reselling at a higher price.
so I already have, so I'll just use myself for an example. There's people that have them, myself included, I have a small one. I want a large one, so does this mean I can't get a large one because I've already had a subsidized small one?
I mean, we were looking at it as one per household this round, and I think that was the idea too, is if you'd want to upgrade, you're welcome to upgrade. But that's, you know, it's a council decision. We can look at previous folks who purchased.
I think it's if I may, it's a live and learn thing, right? Like we were going based on the recommendation from Food Cycle and they give that parameter. If you're a 1 to 2 person household, then the small one is for you.
Yeah.
And it's really not, so, but yeah.
For sure.
All
think-
right, we need a motion. This was just for discussion. What would your motion like to be? Counselor Gerwin, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we proceed with phase 2 at 40 units, the large ones, and offer them to the community for $50 each, irregardless if they already have one, and using the LCAP funding.
To top up any budget shortfall. Yeah.
There you go,
Okay. Moved by Counselor Gerwin. Do I have a seconder?
Brenda.
Brenda? Okay, Counselor, you next. Discussion on that motion. Anybody? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that then brings us to the RCIP MOU report 2125. Mitch, I think you're still up.
Yes, so this one in front of you is the follow-up to the RCIP presentation that Moira gave to you a month ago, I think, at this point. It's essentially asking to enter into the MOU with Community Futures to support, so for staff to support with the initiative on kind of analysis of the requirements. There is going to be a very, I'd say it's very upfront heavy. And then as the project rolls along, it should be more maintenance than anything. Tough to really estimate what the actual requirement will be upfront, just based on reading through the ministerial instructions and what's required, anywhere between 1 to 2 hours per business. I looked, we have 18 businesses on that list right now. So I believe I had 15 at the
Mhm.
time of writing this. And on the code list as it stands, so it's not yet approved from the larger group, we have 12 of the 17 codes for businesses that have reached out to us already. And I've also noted that some of those codes that aren't on those lists actually overlap. So for example, like food server and bartender in a small town, those tend to be the same person instead of one of each, right? So that actually could be higher. But that does represent a lot of the working immigrant force that's here right now.
Okay, thanks, Mitch. I looked at staff, senior staff to let us know if they've done an analysis with respect to the amount of time required and whether or not we can fit it in. I mean, it's a new project, right? It's something added to what our planning department needs to do. And so, can we do it with the staff that we have, or do we have to drop something in order to do it?
I'm gonna defer to Lisa to see what conversations she's had with the team. Myself and Lisa have had numerous conversations about capacity in general, so it's not like there's a bunch of free boards. So we'd have to reevaluate what's on the docket essentially and try to have a good understanding of what the capacity is required to fulfill the needs for the program, and then see how it fits in and what gets pushed out, I guess, for lack of better words.
It sounds like we're under 50 hours though. If you can, I mean, that, if you're talking about 18 in a couple hours, you don't know that, but let's just say it's 3 hours, then you're at 50, then there's the training you need to do. You and maybe, because I suppose it'd be more than one person that you want to have trained up, right, for backup. So, are we up to 60, 70 hours, 80 hours?
Yeah, I just want to add to the Chamber of Commerce is heavily involved in this, which does significantly reduce the amount of time that's needed on our end as well.
Yeah,
Good.
I think we see this as a really foundational to economic development. So in my mind, it's a priority for the regional municipality to participate and support the program. Does it mean pulling away from other things? Maybe like we just discussed around Food Cycler, where that might not take as high a priority.
Right.
But I believe that, based on the conversations that Mitch and I have had, there's room in the program to be able to add this in, and Krista's taking on a bit more as well on the small business side of things to help alleviate some of Mitch's time. And then I'm back up for Mitch essentially. And like he said, Bev Anderson has been there with us every step of the way to help with this as well. So that's been a huge help. So those are my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Because this is April and May time, right? I mean, this is in order to bring the employers on. And I would imagine there'd be some coaching perhaps for the employers to get through whatever trainings required. So this is like in the next 2 months is when all this amount of time has to happen. So, okay.
Yeah, and we think, just based, I think, on the conversations with the RCIP committee, it's a lot of it's being led by obviously Community Futures. They're putting out the communications to the employers around next steps as far as training and things like that go. Mitch's role and Bev's will be a lot of vetting the employers once that list is shortlisted, and I think it was estimated about 1 hour for each interview with each employer. So it's not overly onerous. A lot of it's been responding to inquiries and things like that so far, but I think
Okay.
once we have the employers vetted, then it goes into that formal process with the rest of the committee.
Right. Counselor Goodwin?
Yeah, it was my understanding that they were hiring staff. So would the hired staff, like not through the NRM, but the hired staff do they not have a role to play?
Yeah, the committee itself has just hired Franny, I can't remember her last name. but
Ron
she's-
Hogan.
Yeah, she's taking a lot of the administrative tasks for the committee and making sure that the communications are getting out to the committee members as well as doing things like template letters for the employers and things like that. So that will definitely help alleviate some of the work at the local level.
And so your impression was from me, because when they originally explained it to me, they figured they needed four employees, but they were gonna do it all. Vetting the employers, doing all of that. So then the budget was pretty high. And so then when they started actually getting together and talking to everybody, that's when they modified the numbers that they'd have to hire if they could get the municipalities to participate with their planning staff or their economic development staff.
So are they just hiring one staff then?
Near as I know.
Yeah, so our contribution is in lieu of coming to local governments and actually asking for funding.
To pay for those people who would come out and vet the employers and, yeah,
Mhm.
so that's how they modified it to.
So then this project isn't gonna provide any support to the newcomers coming into the community? Like helping them through the process?
No, that's the employer's responsibility as near as I can, and I think that's why the employer is required to do 2 or 3 courses or something, probably one with the law. And one to, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the courses would be, but it makes sense that they'd be the legal requirements and then the federal requirements so that they know what's happening. Cause
Well, I get
the
that.
application is put in jointly by the employer and the applicant, right? So it's.
I think we just need to be aware because it was my understanding that there was going to be staff in the community that could support newcomers coming into the community. Because the Literacy Society has been doing this work for years, and then as we all know, they have had that entire contract has been removed. So what support is going to be there is my question. And I thought that this project had built-in support.
Yeah, so there are some requirements around how the employers are to engage with the employees, including providing the support necessary. Success is the folks that will be supporting those the immigrants or those participating in this program to provide any support that they need.
But we don't have success here.
Correct. And so I know that Shauna has been in contact with them, although I don't know the level of contact that they've had. So I know there's conversations in the background of how Fort Nelson can be supported. But that is part of the process, is that the employer is responsible for finding the support for these folks.
I didn't see who was first, but, okay, go ahead, John.
Thank you. Great report. I'm really happy to support this project. I guess my biggest concern was after we met with Community Futures and they let us know that they didn't have the funding for the entire 5 years. And that kind of put a bit of a damper on the project for me. Especially when we had a bit of a controversial reaction to it, and we kind of said, hey, this isn't going to cost you anything. It's not going to be, so there is that potential down the line that they come to us and say, hey, we can't, finish this last year, the last 2 years without some extra money. And at that point, it changes the parameters of the decision that we're about to make, this MOU that we're entering into. So that's my only concern. But I mean, with every endeavor, there's always unknowns. And I think that the benefit to the economy is going to outweigh that little bit of doubt that might be lingering in our minds. It would be nice if we did have more support for any newcomers that arrive to the community through the program. And I understand that perhaps some of the applicants would already be living here as well. So that makes things a little bit easier. But I know the Literacy Society was doing a fantastic job working with immigrants. And, there might be an opportunity to partner with them, maybe direct some funding at some point so that they can continue that work and really, bolster the program to make sure it's successful. I just don't want to enter into something that's not going to lead to success, and I don't want someone to go halfway through a program and do all the right things and then have the program fall apart and then not get to that that status that they're looking for, that permanent residency. So some concerns, but I'm happy that the staff are taking this program on and are willing to make the time. Sometimes you have to make the time for the things that are important, and I'm just glad to see that in the report that we'll be able to meet our needs capacity wise. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Counselor Souls first.
I think this is like entry level. This is an entry level exercise with something that if it doesn't work at this level, it won't work at any other one. The fact that when you say that in your report, you say the exact number of residents currently impacts is unknown, although noted that it is likely represents a large population of the existing immigrant labor force. So we're already, the application of this is with people who are mostly here already and mostly working for employers somewhere already. So you see that the training is not going to be onerous for people who already have the connections with immigrant labor, and there's already employers in place, and there's already employees in place whom are part of our community, and we want them to stay here. So I think that this actually is just a recipe for success. It's just with us putting a bit of staff time into it, I think it's well worth it because the main components of it being a success are already in place. Success breeds success. If this works well in this first round, then I think the second round will be easier, even with new people.
Counselor Enox.
I'm just wondering if anybody's reached out to the MLA office, because I know when Dan Davies was there, he was involved in some of this as well as Kim. It's worth maybe checking in to see what they can do to support. It's a great program. And I know I've talked to a few owners that said without, the immigration or immigrants that they have working, that they're trying to, help get their Canadian status, they wouldn't be open. So I think it's a great program.
Yeah, so with respect to the, the future requests for money, I know that they've reached out to a few other agencies, one that I'm involved in for sure. I think the hang up at NDIT is they're used to doing just an annual grant, right? And they ask for multi-year funding in this particular case. And, I think the staff is trying to figure out a way around that. And so there's a significant chunk of change there that they potentially can get. And I think there's others that they reached out to. So we'll be able to get a feel for, I think, how the project will work in that first year. And if it goes off great, I don't think you'll see the municipalities having to fund the whole thing. And if they break it down between us, there may be a small cost, but we'll have to see what that looks like in the future in order to make it go the full 5-year potential program. So I'm really comfortable with it. I agree. I think it's foundational to good economic development and allowing our employers to do everything they can to get the employees that they need to run their businesses. So what are council's wishes? There's a recommendation there.
I would move the recommendation that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Rural Community Immigration Project, Peace Yard, for the provision of staff time to support the Rural Community Immigration Pilot program.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Roper. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Enox. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. That brings us to Administration Report 2225, which is a Development Variance Permit Application DBP 2402. Variance to paving standards at 4501 55th Street. Welcome, Rada.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. So this report in front of you is associated with the development variance permit application we received in 2024. The applicant is seeking the paving standard variation for the property located at 4501 55th Street. This matter was brought to council in November 12, 2024, where council had directed staff to explore the possibility of agreement with the applicant regarding the maintenance of the chip seal. We did meet with the applicant on January 30th, 2025. However, the applicant denied to enter into the agreement. Yeah, so that said, while chip seal is still a cost-effective alternative, based on the information provided in the previous report, it requires frequent ongoing maintenance compared to asphalt and concrete. And given that the security deposit or agreement is not set up, the municipality really lacks the enforcement mechanism to ensure ongoing maintenance of the chip seal. On the other hand, if this application is approved, there may be a precedent set through this application, which may influence the future development in terms of the look and feel of the community within the urban setting. And also, given that there has been historically a non-compliance issue with this property, staff recommends that this application be denied. Alternatively, if council wish to, council can direct staff to proceed with the public notification to the surrounding property owners.
Okay. I think I heard that there was some discussion around the OCP with respect to this. Is there somebody who can speak to anything that's come out of the OCP around paving in the community and what people are talking about? Can we talk about that? Can we? Yeah.
We have had this conversation brought up during our project advisory committee meeting, and during that meeting, it seemed like advisory committee members were comfortable with going with asphalt and concrete for the community.
So keeping the hard surfacing rather than in the new OCP and eventually obviously the zoning bylaw.
Right. There may be an opportunity for revisiting this through zoning bylaw update, but often we stay with the OCP policies. So.
Sure. Okay, thank you for the report and the discussion. Is there anybody have any questions or comments with respect to this? Go ahead. Counselor Souls first.
Oh, that's fine. I know I was originally supportive of keeping chip seal as a way of mitigating the mud that was there before it. But I do think that as with all of our other asphalt projects around here, it would be quite costly and to just do that on a standalone project. But when we have other asphalt being laid in the community, it's really a small asphalt job.
Yeah.
So I think that I'll support this.
You'll support the denial? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, great report. I absolutely see the logic behind the recommendation. That's the right way to proceed. It really is if we're playing things by the book. But we do have a request here for an accommodation. And when I think of the current state of the economy and the value that this business provides to the municipality, I'm willing to entertain this accommodation, at least to the next phase, where we go to the notification period. And if we get some feedback that makes things a little less clear that we can proceed with the accommodation, then I would be willing to reconsider. But at this point, I would like to explore option 2 to get to that next phase.
Anybody else? Counselor Cumming?
Yeah, this has been on the books for over a year, and I'm in support of the variance being denied. I think there's businesses in the area that have followed the bylaw and got the asphalt that was required. So I think that it's really important that all businesses are held to the same set of bylaws, right? So, yeah, I would be in support of denying the variance.
Counselor next.
As you all know, I have a love-hate relationship with chip seal after laying many miles over the 9 years working on the highway. Again, at one time, the whole highway, was chip seal. It's easy to fix. And I agree with Councillor Roper that I would hate to see this be the end all for the business if it was denied.
So I'll weigh in then. I had originally agreed with Councillor Souls. I thought that that chip seal would be fine. But I think we left the last meeting with the idea that we could be comfortable with it if the proponent was prepared to enter an agreement with respect to maintenance and keeping it up, because chip seal is not it's not the standard that the bylaw expects. And that's what the proponent committed to originally, was to put it in. And again, if there wasn't any asphalt being laid in the community, I could see where it'd be more difficult, for somebody to lay asphalt. So I think this is much bigger issue. I think we probably, based on the economy and what's happening in that we probably do need to revisit the bylaw and the zoning bylaw to really look at it again, because apparently we are holding paving deposits on our books, and we have to pay interest on those every year. And, it doesn't seem like it was the best way to enforce paving being put in. So I think probably we're gonna have to do a complete review of that paving standard. That's part of the question why I asked about the OCP, because that will eventually lead to the zoning bylaw, and so maybe that's the time. But based on the fact that the proponent was not prepared to, talk about any kind of a maintenance agreement to put this in, then I've got to feel like I've got to go with what the bylaw originally had said. If he was looking at doing a maintenance agreement, then I probably could have seen my way around it. But without that agreement, and that's where we left off, I believe last time, was that we hoped that staff could work with them to pull an agreement together, and that didn't happen. So if he's, I feel that's what he's doing. He's forcing us to a yes or no. And I feel like I just have to say no if that's the case. We need to stick with the bylaw. So I would agree with those that want to deny this. So is there any further discussion? We've all had one crack at it. John, I'll let you have the last word.
Maybe just one point. If we're interested in reviewing the bylaw, could the decision be postponed until that action occurs, or is there a time crunch here? Can we hold off on the decision?
Councilor Goodwin, you talked about time.
It's already been so long, it's like deferred. It's a mess. I don't know if any of you go there, but I was just there the other day in my boots. So it's a mess. And I guess I look at it as an unfair practice. We're holding some businesses to ensure that they are following the bylaw, and then we're allowing other businesses to not follow the bylaw year after year after year. And just from my perspective, I would hate to see our community not continue with asphalt. I really would. I think it would be not in our overall best interest for the future.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, a bylaw review, I don't know whether, that could even be taken into account, or where that would even go.
Yeah.
I would hate to defer this decision once again, but.
So Councilor Souls.
So second crack, yeah, I think of, excuse me, no. The train went off the track when I laughed, so.
Oh.
Sorry.
Let me jump in there. You can
jump in.
You can pull your thoughts together. So, I guess to hold
Timing.
off, you hold off for whatever time it takes to do it, and then staff's right back in the exact same position as they were. If it doesn't go that way, right? That staff's right back where they are today. however long down the road it is. And I think you just rip the Band-Aid off now and just make a decision based on the way the bylaw has been. That's been my thought. Councillor
Okay,
Colle.
train's back on. I was
Okay.
thinking about timing, like as far as a timeline, because timelines do matter and so on. But let's say we deny the variance right now. Well, he can't go and get asphalt laid tomorrow. So when can he get asphalt laid, and when are we laying asphalt next in our community? What do we have on the books for asphalt? Because it's very likely that the timing of asphalt for him will be the same timing as asphalt for us.
That's right.
So in a sense, there might be a span of time that has to go by regardless in order to make it work for both of us.
Yeah.
So when will we have asphalt next?
I don't think you need to.
I want to.
But we've all had a crack at this already. If I give you a chance, I gotta give everybody one more chance. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a recommendation?
Yeah, I would, make the recommendation that the development variance permit application DVP 2402 be denied.
Do I have a second? Councillor Souls. One last crack at discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That carries.
Yes, please record my vote.
Thank you.
Okay, administrative report, 23-25 Parker Lake Recreation Site Projects, 2025 for information. Is there anybody at staff that would like to speak to this one or? Sure. Lisa, welcome again.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report actually was supposed to be presented to you May 13th, 2024. So that was 3 days after we were evacuated out of the community. So these upgrades are actually projects that stemmed from that public survey that we had undertaken a few years ago around Parker Lake and what people would like to see. We did some work with Recreation Sites and Trails BC. And last year they committed to doing the upgrades that are identified in the report. I did confirm with them that they intend on undertaking these upgrades in 2025 instead. So yeah, the report is just for your information. So you know what to expect as far as work that'll be undertaken this year.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks, Lisa. Okay, that's the end of reports. It brings us to correspondence. There is no correspondence on here for discussion. There are 19 pieces for information. Is there a willingness to lift any of those for discussion? Councilor Roper?
I'd be interested in lifting the letters for support to the library and community groups, if there's an appetite for that.
Okay, so there are, I didn't count how many there were.
There's a lot.
I should have.
The electronic agenda reflects more because we've continued to add them as they've come in since the agenda was originally printed in paper copy. Because the timing of the next meeting may fall after budget considerations have concluded.
Okay, they're not all the same. The letters are not all the same. Many of them are. But they all have the same intent, fair?
I would say the same theme, and
Same
I'm
theme?
counting 12 on my agenda
12?
here.
Okay, so I have a motion to bring the 12 letters of support for the library and nonprofits.
Is that my motion or your
It's your
motion?
motion.
My
Yeah.
motion, okay.
So moved by Councilor Roper. Do I have a second? Okay, second by Councilor Gerwin. Is there any discussion to bring those forward? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed?
No.
Okay, they are on the floor. Councilor Roper.
Great. Well, I had a few comments on the last meeting. I don't want to repeat myself. But again, we've got some messaging coming from the community and a pretty substantial response. And I'm going to give some of my insights on the open house in my councillor report. So I don't want to double up there. But we do have what I would consider a strong message from the community that they want to see our nonprofits continue to be supported and to not just survive, but thrive. So that's my 2 cents for now. I'll have more to say at the next meeting as well. I'm sure we'll be getting more letters as I predicted last time. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to those? Okay, is there any other pieces of correspondence that anybody would like to lift from the information? Okay, then I will entertain a resolution to accept all of the rest of them for information. Moved by Counselor Souls, second by Counselor Enoch. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. So that brings us then to new business 10.2. I don't think I've missed anything yet. 10.2, appointment to the North Central Local Government Association. Councillor Gerwing has happily decided to retire from that spot, and Councillor Enoch is interested in taking that role on as our representative to NCLGA. So I'll need a motion for that. Councillor Gerwing, would you like to make that motion? Moved by Councillor Gerwing. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Souls. Is there any discussion? Councillor Enoch.
Okay, I'll do it, Lorraine. No, I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm
Councillor
look-
Roper.
I was just going to make a terrible joke about what a great job Lorraine has been doing, and I'd like to see her continue in that role. But I won't make that joke. And I fully support Councillor Enox in her new role as a representative with NCLG. I think it's a really important organization to be a part of, and yeah, it's good to switch out our people so that we don't get burned down on certain things. And I'm sure there might be a day where it'll be one of our jobs. So. Thank you.
I've done it for 9 years, so I think it's worth, and Councillor Enox is going to the AGM in Prince Rupert, so I think she'll be a great fit.
Gives her the ability to speak on our behalf there, and yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Thank you, Councillor Enox, for
Yes.
agreeing to take that on. All in favor? Are there any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to councillor reports. Councillor Enox.
I've been really busy with work, but I won't bore you with that. The festival, I will say the festival went great. All the events, some of them weren't attended as well as others in previous years, but we had a great time regardless. But I do need to congratulate our team Streeper. April 5th and 6th, the Streeper family went up to the Yellowknife Detaw First Nation sled dog race, and it was a Streeper sweep.
Yeah.
Claire Streeper is the champion, and Alva finished with silver. So congratulations to Team Streeper.
Good. Anybody else? Councillor Gerwing?
So March 27th, I attended the chamber board meeting. April 1st, I was at the Grace Manor board meeting. And I don't know if you all have been to Grace Manor lately, but if you haven't, you should go. There's many upgrades are complete with more in the works. Their spa room is almost complete, which will make life so much easier for many of the residents. Also in the works is a little sunroom. Those folks that have rooms facing that way don't get a lot of sun, so they're creating this little sunroom where the sun shines in all day. So that will be a really nice upgrade for there. And they've also been working on the building integrity, plumbing, and et cetera. BC Housing has been really generous in their support of the Grace Manor building. So if you haven't gone by lately, you should go take a look. April 2nd, I attended the community roundtable meeting, and later that day, the seniors week meeting. So that's happening June the 2nd to the 6th. So just a reminder. April 4th, I attended the community health planning table meeting. And so just wanted to share a little bit, like as a reminder, we came up with the community came up with the 6 health objectives, which were recruitment and retention, improve healthcare travel services, improve mental health and substance use services, improve maternity care, increase visiting health services and virtual care, improve cancer care locally. So over 2024 and the first part of 2025, we've been working on the recruitment and retention, as council will know, and also a lot of work has been done on improving healthcare travel services. Not that we would know that because it hasn't really improved, but we have been working on it. And so as we're looking at taking on another one of those priority items in 2025. And so far, we think it's going to be increased visiting health services and virtual care. So watch for more coming out of those monthly meetings around that. As well, on April 4th, I attended the BC Rural Health Network executive meeting to discuss funding options for the network as they were left out of the provincial budget. So, and then the implementation meeting on April 10th, and that meeting focused on transportation issues for rural and remote British Columbians. So that was a really interesting 2.5 hours listening to, it's not just us, as we all know, right? It's not just us. There's challenges right throughout the province. I was able to share, though, our Villers Air transportation project, and there was a lot of interest there. Made a plea for, funding, as anybody has deep pockets, but nobody contacted me yet.
Nobody jumped up and down.
April 8th, I attended the local health planning table primary care network meeting, and then followed by the budget open house that night. Also on the 10th, I attended the Community Fire Smart and Resiliency Committee meeting virtually. I wanted to see the presentation on the areas the province had identified as needing fire mitigation work. I was so disappointed to learn that the areas of risk will probably not actually see any work done this year by the province, but hopefully in subsequent years. And I'm so very grateful for the time that the community members are putting into that committee. And hopefully the subsequent work that comes out of that, because like we always know, nobody's coming to save us, right? So thank you.
Councilor Roper?
Sure. I attended the budget open house on April the 8th. Wow, what a turnout. That was the busiest event on a Tuesday. I've probably in town that night, and that was the busiest open house we've ever done. There's some years we receive nobody, and there was quite a large group there. Had an interesting conversation. Someone was asking me questions about our budget, and there is modest increases in our staffing and other operational aspects of our budget. And they asked me, they said, why is that budget getting bigger? And I tried to explain just how the operation works and how things are tied to inflation, and really just trying to promote our budget the best I can, just to sort of get people involved and on board and in support. Then I was immediately met with a comment, why aren't we applying that to the nonprofits? Why are they not allowed to have increases in their budgets and you are? And I didn't have a good answer for that. And I really feel like it's hard to promote the budget overall when we have all this messaging going out about funding freezes and the economy and everything else. So I just want to just point that out. And even the next day, I had at least 2 residents, come to see me after the open house and express that they felt that the opinions that they were trying to express were not kind of fell on dead ears, for lack of a better word. They felt that they didn't have a voice, and they were disappointed. So I do want to say that while I can appreciate some of the reasoning behind the funding freeze, I don't think we're there yet, and I can see the morale of the community getting lowered by this, and I can see it affecting our budget as well, because it's opening up questions about the activities that we do and our modest increases. But overall, I was happy with the turnout and the engagement. It's really nice when people engage one way or the other. It's just, that's what we're here for. So here to listen. So thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Souls?
On April the 3rd and 4th, 2nd, 3rd, and part of 4th, I attended Kofi in Prince George, the Council of Forest Industry Conference. As usual, it's very interesting to get a bunch of forestry companies and government in the same room so that they can all pat each other on the back and point south of the Orange Man and all the problems in the world and all the problems with the forest industry. And it was really quite interesting, though. My interest was piqued by the forest minister's speech and then by the premier's speech. Either they are making an about face in what they have pushed for the last number of years, or else they've got some good counselors whispering in their ears. But some of the things said there were really remarkable. I wonder if the bureaucratic system will allow some of that to get put into place. But things like we recognize timber shortages, and they're starting to realize the implication of conservation only, including parks in a boreal forest, result in massive fires. And so like a lot of the preaching of the little wee choir in corners like this was heard from the forest minister from the pulpit. And I was really surprised. I was not surprised by the day and a half of chatter leading up to that, where there's a recognition of what needs to happen. There's a recognition that there needs to be faster permitting. There's recognition that mills are disappearing and no one's really talking about why. There's a recognition that there is a need for a different focus on how forests are managed. There's recognition for quite a bit of it. But everyone protected their turf really well, so that I can guarantee from the different sets of panels that were there that we won't see any progress. Everyone's protecting their turf as for what they believe, how they believe we should be moving forward, so we won't move forward. So I think, though, that there's the one thing that I got out of that is that there is definitely an appetite on the political level for new entrants and diverse entrants into the forest industry. I don't think that if someone wants to start something on a small to modest scale or medium scale, I don't think that they will run into many of the blockades that have been there in the past. There was not much discussion. I know that one speaker, actually Glenn Clark, who used to be the premier a long time ago, was cognizant of what's really going on in the forest industry and was the only one that had the guts to talk about it. And that is that just the model of forest production is changing in the world, and the capital is all moving toward agroforestry projects in the world. So what was the great Canadian model is not, until it can learn to follow groups like Sweden and actually have an agroforestry approach to a long-term forest management, we won't have much of a forest industry. And recognition that all the capital that's flowing in the forms of like in the large BC corporate forest companies is flowing to southeastern states is going to continue because they're actually investing in a new model. So I think that it means when one person is willing to talk about it in public, a well-known public bureaucrat at this point, he's the chair of BC Hydro now, that's actually an indication that it's being talked about behind closed doors, and that the recognition of a changing model where you have people starting to manage forests in a way that's not just abstract, but actually is hands-on, I think it's coming eventually. I came away from it moderately hopeful because of the political stance, rather than just status quo is not doing a whole lot. But I think there's a new direction that's starting to catch on.
Thank you. So I'll make my report. So I also attended Kofi. Agree with everything that Councillor Souls has said. From the political perspective, I would agree with that as well, because it's the first time I've been at one of these where I've heard the minister and the premier give an amount that they would like to see cut in this province, right? Which is 45 million. The annual allowable cut is set at 60. It should be 90. Listening to the industry folks there, but the mandate letter to the Minister of Forests says the premier would like to see the Minister of Forests strive to ensure that we have 45 million cubic meters of wood cut in this province. So he set a number. We're not there. We were at 32 cut last year. Is that something like that? Which is a historic low for the province. But so to see them say a target, trying to get industry and the minister now to do what he can to get us up to that level gives me hope that the minister is prepared, and he had a good speech, and, you know, it seems like he wants to streamline permitting, and he wants to, you know, have a good idea what the working forest will look like, and he wants to get there. And we've been hearing for years and years and years, that's what the industry needs, is certainty with respect to what does the working forest look like. Didn't hear a lot with respect to, you know, the conservationists say we need to conserve more. It was more around, you know, what can we do to get this industry, the base of this industry, going again. So I felt, you know, somewhat optimistic that the provinces, the politicians are taking a little different perspective, and hopefully that will filter down then to the bureaucrats as well. But that wasn't the highlight for me. The highlight for me was this report that Kofi commissioned, a third party, based on the competitiveness and sustainability in the BC forest sector with respect to the rest of the world. And when I say the rest of the world, the Scandinavian countries, Eastern Canada, New Zealand, the Southern United States. So this comparison, and we're in really bad shape compared to all of the rest of them. You know, with there's one chart I'd like to show you. I don't know if everybody can see it, but this is, with these dots here, are all those other Brazil, New Zealand, US South, Finland, Sweden, prairies, Canadian East. This is investment dollars put into all of these places. And this is us, way, way down here. You know, it just shows that we are not competitive. People are not putting investment dollars into BC. And I think, you know, the government would like to see that changed, but even, which helps me think again that they're going to actually do something. But that wasn't the recommendation that was part of this report. The part of this report that really got me going was the sections under learning, particularly under transport infrastructure. So they looked at several things: wood supply security, sustainability narrative, research and development ecosystem, skilled labor and availability at cost, transportation infrastructure, and environmental policies. Those were the broad groups that they looked at across all of these areas where they do logging. Under transportation infrastructure, challenges identified: large distances from forest to mill to market with limited rail options. Opportunity for BC. Rail. Upgrade and expand the rail network in BC's interior to improve access to wood, as projects are often unfunded due to a lack of rail links, such as in the Fort Nelson area. So the report identifies specifically, you know, our area. So if you look at the cut, the annual allowable cut, I mean, our actual cut is very low. You know, whatever the community forest seems to be doing is all we've had for a decade, I suppose you could say. If we were to cut, you know, what our annual allowable cut, it's 5% of that 45 million, right? So it's a substantial amount of wood potentially, and hopefully, you know, we can take this report. I have a call into Kofi, the new president of Kofi. I left a message with her to call me back to see if we can partner with them to somehow deal with that particular recommendation. And I think that should be part of the discussion that we have as we go forward with respect to what are we doing around lobbying and that sort of thing. So I was really heartened by that and this report. It is available digitally, and so if you're interested in reading it, you can either take this or we can get it to you digitally. That was Kofi. While I was at Kofi, I also attended a virtual meeting with the Regional Hospital District and Northern Health, their spring meeting with respect to capital. And so there's did we get a copy of that?
Not yet.
Of
The presentation.
The presentation, yeah.
Not
The
yet.
presentation was pretty good with respect to the different things that they're doing to attract and retain workers. As I said before, they're kind of not just dealing with capital anymore at these. They're starting to deal more with operational issues. And maybe that's from, you know, some of the municipalities saying, hey, we're here, we have these operational issues, we should start talking about them. And so now they are. And I actually think you should start coming to these meetings with us because they're starting to talk about operations so much and not just capital. So we are on the 10-year cycle starting next year to look at an upgrade or a replacement of our hospital, which is a two-sided coin or a double-edged sword, whichever way you want to look at it. Because we're, you know, it's an old hospital. It's our turn for them to look at it. But, you know, we're depending on whether they upgrade it or whether they choose to build a new one, you know, we're looking at a substantial amount of money that needs to be raised in that 10-year process as they move forward to whatever it looks like, right? I mean, you know, some of these hospitals are $1 billion. I think the one in Dawson Creek was 400 approaching $500 million. I mean, ours won't be anything like that, but even if it's 100 million, 40% of that is a significant amount of change that, you know, there's an expectation that the taxpayer will pick that up in the hospital district. But so it's you know, it's a double-sided coin there that or a double-edged sword, whichever way you want to look at it. But we are on the list. They have approved our projects, which were in the queue this year. I think the main one is the elevator at the hospital. That's the main one that they're going to do this year. So that was that Northern Health meeting. Then I went to Manh Choh Lake, came back from Kofi and went to Manh Choh Lake curling. That was a lot of fun. Always is. Curling club does a great deal there to really put on a bit of an end of the year party for all their staff, and 11 teams, 44 people. It was great. Urs puts on he puts on a great sort of show and hospitality while we're there. So that was really good. I sat with the Phoenix Theater Society on the 7th and answered a few questions about the budget. I also went to the primary care network meeting that we had here for the health planning table and the budget open house that evening, which I also agree. It was great to see the turnout that we had there. Met with the auditor on the 9th to talk to him about the usual things we talk about. He's interested to know if, you know, there's any concerns around fraud and, you know, are we being sued for anything? Just that high level stuff at the political level. So we had that discussion on the 9th. Then we had the Community Fire Smart meeting on the 10th. I chaired that meeting. A couple of good things I think came out of that. One was the report. It is disappointing that the province is not prepared to invest any money because they just got the report, right? So they really haven't worked out any kind of a plan to execute on that report yet. They've got, you know, the good part out of it is that they have their contractor had identified virtually all the same places that the committee had identified as areas of action that we would like to see action done more quickly. I think probably there's some discussion that will happen once they do move sort of on the execution route, what the priorities should be. And I think the committee, I got a good feeling that the committee is going to have an opportunity to have some say in that. So that's good. So, you know, I think the committee is being recognized by the Ministry of Forests, by the Wildfire Service as a committee that has something to say. So hopefully they'll take us. We'll stay credible with them. That we'll be able to, you know, not be those guys up there. Hopefully we'll continue. You know, we'll be able to build a good relationship with all of these organizations. The second thing that came out of there was the cleanup at Parker Lake Road. So I think I explained to you last time that a local contractor has stepped up and has volunteered to do a 75-meter cleanup, a 75-meter swath on the road right away, almost to the lake. It'll stay out of the riparian area at the lake. That's all been approved. And I think the messaging went out that he's starting tomorrow or the next day up there. It won't take him very long to do the work. There was further discussion about making that considerably wider. And, you know, I'm happy to report, you know, from 75 to 300 meters. I'm happy to report that the committee had second thoughts on that and sort of pulled back. because there just really wasn't going to be enough time, I think, to pull together you know, cleaning up 75 meters of the right of way was pretty straightforward and simple, but cleaning 300 meters of right of way, you start to get it. Now you have to start pulling trees down, and you need a really good plan for the forestry to allow you to do that. You know, in order to do it on the frost, we probably would have had to get the Fort Nelson Nation to agree to not look at engagement with them. We'd have to, you know, they, in order to get it done by the frost, they would have to waive that, and you know, that would have been a process all by itself. And so there was willingness, you know, all the parties had willingness, but the committee, I think, backed off of that and said, no, that's something that it's a good project to consider, some sort of a fire guard through that fire, whether it has to be the road or whether it's the pipeline road, the pipe road, and doing it there. So the committee is still, I think that's the way most people are leaning, although we haven't come to a conclusion with respect to what that might look like. But, you know, they're talking about some good projects, and there's some good dialogue there. So I'm really happy as well with the way that committee is going. That was the 10th. I met with somebody local who had wanted to talk about the RCIP program. Sat at the farmers market to answer some questions, any questions that people might have with respect to the budget. Not a lot of people approached me. I didn't go out of my way to pull people out of the aisle either. They weren't there to speak to me. They were there to shop for groceries, and right, that's what they're there for. And so I didn't want to get overly, you know, overly aggressive.
You bring like baking, coffee.
So, but a few people took some of our leaflets, our pamphlets, and I said, take them, read them. We'll be back on next Saturday. So if you've got any questions next Saturday, bring them back. There'll be somebody here to try to answer your questions, or at least write them down and try to get back to you with any answers that we couldn't come up with. I spoke Friday with a representative from went right out of my head. The petroleum company that we wanted to talk to, Paramount, thank you. Their name was right out of my head. They were in town. It was not an open house that they were at Fort Liard. It was a hearing. It was a public hearing for the work that Enbridge is doing at Pointed Mountain, which we heard about last week. So that's what that was. We did have a representative there who stayed in town. He's their public affairs fellow manager who he was in town. He stayed in town, but when I asked him, well, why didn't you call him? She says, because I ate breakfast, left in the morning, and drove. So he was staying in town, but he drove up to Fort Liard every day that he was here. So he didn't have a lot of time to meet with anybody. He said they understand that we want to meet with them. It's not his call, it's his boss's call, and his boss was just getting back on Friday from a vacation. So he said he'd speak to him early this week to try to set something up with us, to have a discussion with us, hopefully in the spring. The president committed to me that the spring that I could get back to him, and they might, because as you recall, we wanted to talk to them when they were completing the sale of the Ovintiv stuff. We wanted to talk to them. So I talked to the president then, and he said, it's not complete. I'm not really sure what we're going to do. Call me again in the spring. And so we did. So hopefully I'll hear back from them this week. Hopefully I'll hear back from the president of Kofi this week, and we can move those lobbying efforts further down the road. Okay, that's my report. There's no business outstanding. Are there any notice of motions for the next meeting? None. Are there any questions about the budgets, priorities, or council business from the public? No? Anybody online interested in asking a question? No? Okay, we do not have a closed meeting agenda tonight, so adjournment is in order. Councilor Roper, Councilor Girling, all in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.